Hey, what's up? This is Buddy from Census Fail, and I'm going to relive the past. Um, this is me. I think I somewhat still look similar. I have aged that considerably. It's been about 10 years. I don't really know what any of this was. Um, it's funny to sort of have something like this to be reminded of choices you made when you were really young, because I don't know if a lot of us get to be reminded of choices we made when we were 20. And I'm a completely different person now. So for better or for worse, I think for better. But it was interesting to read this and just to see where I was coming from and to see how much angst I had, which I think fueled much of what the band was for the considerable time of our bigger success was basically based all on my anger towards everyone. That really comes out in this interview. This was the style back then too, so I don't want anybody getting too upset about the look. This was cool. This was considered really cool to paint your fingernails. And it's going to come back around now as well. The dyeing of the hair was also something that was very cool. We chose to do the suits because it's a January or February issue that came out in January. So our theme was New Year. There's a ball in the AP. So I think it actually was when you look at some of the covers and you look at some of what bands have done, I think this is pretty classy in a way. It's not the most original idea, but I don't think it made us. And when I go back and look at that, that's not what it makes me. It doesn't make me cringe, which I think is a big win. Because some of the covers I'm sure people have seen. You can look back and go, what is that? What were they thinking? Whose idea was that? Who's managing the band? Who let that happen? And I think ours, that's not really the focus, which is good. Now, when we get to the interview, though, that's where things get a little weird. I'll read the I guess intro. I don't know. What do you guys call this in the business? The deck. The deck. The members of Census Fail haven't been on the planet for more than a quarter of a century. Yet it seems that everyone, whether behind the scenes or in front of the stage, wants to put the band under the magnifying glass. Well, folks, these guys have news for all of you. Yeah, that's why it's... Just speaking overall, the article is basically about how everybody hated us. And everybody hated us for a bunch of really good reasons. We sort of decided we were going to be a band that wanted to bum other people out. I think it came from where we were as individuals, is that I think we're all very unhappy with our lives and with how we were raised. And there was a void that was filled with music, and there was a void that we felt we wanted to almost bring our displeasure to the world, which we thought was a very punk thing to do, which it was, which by nature of being punk and whether regardless of how you dress it is to sort of make other people see your discomfort. And that's sort of was one of our goals. I don't know, not necessarily wasn't spoken or right or wrong. It was just something that we wanted to do with our music. And one of the we just didn't play in a punk band, and we didn't really know that. And that was, I think, things would have been a little bit differently had we been in a band like the Casualties and acted the way we did. I think people would have been like, they're a punk band. They're doing drugs. They're breaking things. They're talking shit to people. They're doing these things. But we were, in a pop punk band, basically, a different form, whatever you want to call it. So I think this article basically frames the band as we were, like at that point, troublemakers, which that's what we were. And we had had a lot of success in a very, very short amount of time, which doesn't bode well for anybody to have people like you. So that sort of success coupled with our attitudes led to us not having a lot of friends within the music industry. And that's basically what this article, the arc of the story, is sort of trying to explain, why is it that people don't like Census Fail? And most of that is covered in here. I wish we didn't talk about that. Looking back on it, I wish we didn't make it about that. I think we were very self-centered in thinking that it mattered whether people liked us. I think we wanted people to accept us, but we were doing everything we could to have that not happen. But I don't think, we're 20, so we didn't realize that we were doing things to alienate ourselves from our peers. By nature of just being so successful, we were doing that anyways. And I see it now with bands that when I was younger, resented because of their success. Been like, oh, that band is so successful and I hate them. And want to chop them down. I think it's natural for bands, because a band is basically a group of people's egos put together into one large, massive ego, which then goes out and throws their ego all over the rest of the world and other bands. And so looking back on it, I wish we could have maybe talked about the music or maybe what it felt like to be so young and in the music industry and have so many unique opportunities happen. Because when I look back on it now, I think the closing thing is, I think speaks to that. Goes, when the World Wide Web becomes the venue of choice for worldwide high school cafeteria gossip, when Warped Tour managers get inconsolably bent out of shape over juvenile homemade t-shirts, and when the industry gets its talons into 5 dudes barely old enough to enter into a legally binding contract, well, that shit is bound to hit the fan. Well, the shit is about to hit the fan. Getting drunk, drawing cocks on t-shirts, pissing older people off. That's what most 20-year-olds do, only they don't have the eyes of the underground watching their every move. So I think we just made common mistakes people would make. I think it was just magnified, and we didn't know how to deal with it. And when I look back on that time in music, bands were considerably bigger than they were now. Bands of this music genre were considerably bigger, and there was actually more of a media force and just interest in it. It's not now where sort of everything is saturated. It was still very much old school music industry. There were still a lot of records being sold. There was still a lot of money in it. There was still a lot of almost like, I want to say, stake in it for people. So it at the time felt like we were part of something we didn't understand, and the only thing that we could control was really to just act like jerks. and I reference this, and I still do believe this to be true. I gotta find it. It's where I talk about being from New Jersey. And I think anybody from New Jersey, or from the East Coast for that matter of fact, when you start interacting with people from other parts of the country, you start to realize that people think you're insane, insensitive. Basically those two things, insane and insensitive. And we didn't know that. We're interacting with people from all over the world, all different kinds of people. The first time that we landed in London, we'd been drunk on the plane, and we were yelling and farting and fucking speaking in British accents. And this guy who'd sat there for 7 hours, this British guy, is like, "You're gonna get beat the fuck up." And we were like, "Fuck you." And then, of course, we did. We got beat up. Well, one of our guys got beat up. Twice. 3 people got beat. 3 people got beat up, and we deserved it. And but that's something that I also. How do you go from being? I was literally 18. I literally graduated high school, started Census Fail, and it just took off. And then our drummer, 15, he didn't even make it through high school. So we don't have any sense of grounding. And it can come off very much, and I say it over and over again, how it's not that we thought we were better than anyone. It's just that we just didn't know. And that was the point we were trying to get across in this, is that we don't think we're better. We didn't think we were better than anyone. We just didn't know how to behave. And we learned. And we learned over time, and if you look at this, there's very few of us still in the band. And these people and all of us here are completely different people than when we were, because the amount you change from, I think, when you're 20 to 30 is pretty substantial. Or think about Dan. I mean, was 15 and he's 26 now, almost 27. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. It would be interesting for everybody to be able to have that perspective. I think that you'd appreciate where you are versus where you were. And in doing so and reading this, I think I appreciate where I am now and who I am. And I also do, I have a great love that I was a part of this and I've been able to do this. And I wouldn't be where I am without all of this. So it's interesting to see how different I am and how glad I am I had this to be where I am now. Because I seem like a very upset, unhappy person. And I was, But I guess I'll close here where the writer goes into talking about how I talk too much. And I wanted to close on that. Because he's right.
Who wrote the story? What's the name of it?
It quickly becomes clear that Nielsen doesn't really have an off switch. But unlike most people who talk too much, he's refreshingly not boring most of the time. Nonetheless, as he runs his mouth about the stereotypical ignorant America, or the fact he was born in Mount Sinai Hospital in 1984, or how he feels it's important to have a connection with people who listen to your music, even the host's unblinking eyes start to glaze over, and I figure it's only a matter of time before some severe-looking technician in a white lab coat comes in to re-moisten his pupils, a la Clockwork Orange. So, I still talk too much, but I think I talk with a greater understanding of myself and respect for the world. So, but I appreciate that I can have this forever, and it's nice to reflect.
On the dance floor,
They played main stage for free.
they played main stage for free because they knew they would sell merch and make the difference. They wanted to prove to Kevin that they could do it.
And they did.
Yeah, they absolutely did. I mean, I don't know if they're still a draw now, but they just put a new record out, didn't they, Cassie? Where'd Cassie go?
She's back.
They did put a new record out.
They did put a new record out, and we never got it. Nobody cared.
But they probably can still go play Peabody or in this case the Agora.
They could probably play Crypt Death Iowa and kids will.
Yeah, I mean,